What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Clair Obscur video. Today I wanted to talk about the top 3 best weapons for each character in your party. I'm going to cover the best early game option, as well as my opinion on the best endgame options to keep your characters at their maximum potential. As is the case with any of these weapon ranking videos, these are my opinions after 60 hours in this game and completing everything. But I do want to hear what you guys think is the best weapon is, especially if it's not on this list. Let me know in the comments if there's a weapon I need to try. And with that being said, let's get started. Starting off this list, we're going to go over Gustav and Verso's best weapon, as they share the same weapon pool. Now for the early game, I'd recommend the Dualiso sword. You can get this weapon from the Forgotten Battlefield area early on your journey. Now this weapon is strong because of its first ability. You get an extra turn whenever you do a base attack. Extra turn effects in the beginning of the game are always extremely rare, so being able to gain some extra AP on a base attack and then using your more powerful abilities afterwards is huge. Once you hit the mid to late game, you'll have access to more play again moves like Cheater, and then the sword's gonna fall off. Which brings me to my first mid to late game weapon, the Lancer Ram. Now you'll probably already have this weapon when it's time to switch over, as low level versions of this weapon drop in Spring Meadows and the coastal cave areas. I like this weapon with Verso a lot, because it starts you at rank C perfection and you can't ever hit rank D with it equipped. It's a good way to start off the fight with an extra letter grade closer to S, which is where you want to be at. Much like the first sword, this one also prioritizes base attacks, giving you 4 perfection every time you do it. With this sword, I like to pair extra base attack pictos so I can hit multiple times. Plus, the level 20 ability giving you double AP points on parrying is the icing on top. For the late game, my personal choice is the Chevalam sword. Much like how the last sword helped us get closer to S rank, this one helps us even further. Its first ability starts us in S rank, which is an incredible skill. With skills like Stars of Ruin, you'll be able to cast a normally 9 AP skill on your first turn when you go with Verso. Now it does have the downside of not being able to heal or use shields with the sword. We couldn't expect it to be all upside with this powerful weapon. But honestly, if you build Verso with like 7 or 8,000 health with your pictos, you'll be fine for most battles. And especially if you're a parry god. The second ability, granting 20% extra damage every turn you don't really get hit, powers up Verso, getting him closer to insane damage numbers. I just want to mention that there is a super secret sword from the ultra hard mystery boss at the very end of the game, but since it's the last thing you're likely going to be doing, it's really just a new game plus weapon. And at that point, I don't think you really need me to tell you what's strong or not. Alright, next up on the list we have Lune's starter weapon. You can obtain this weapon extremely early from the Ancient Sanctuary or the Jestro Village. It's the Trebuchet. In the early game, one of my favorite Lune builds was spamming Mayhem. This weapon generates a random stain on free aim shots. Just shoot 4 times and you have Mayhem ready to go. If you've got a good build going around consuming stains in every situation, just 1 or 2 free aim shots can set up some wild turns depending on what you get. You also get 1 AP refunded every time you consume a stain, which is efficient. The second weapon on this list is going to require you to be kind of in the late game. You'll need to unlock relationship level 6 with Lune to start this side quest, but it's so worth it for just the Coral Elm weapon. Now most people like building Lune with the burn ability. Heck, I'd cast Hell every turn if I was able. And this is the best choice for the Pyros out there. The first ability will give you 100% crit chance when you have 4 stains active. Any 4. Now eventually you can build Lune to have 100% crit at all times, but until then this is just crazy good. It also has the same ability as one of Verso's swords, where you gain an additional 20% damage for every turn you don't take damage. If your parry game is on point, you know this effect is strong. And finally, the third ability, every critical hit applies burn. Just free stacks of burn. What's not to like? And my number 1 weapon for Lune is the Scaverum weapon. You can acquire this weapon from the Fallen Leaves area. This weapon actually has the strongest power scaling in the entire game for her. And of course, power scale determines damage, so that's just a huge part of why I like this. But let's talk abilities. The first one has a 50% chance to generate a dark stain when consuming stains, and all your skills will deal 50% more damage with dark stains. So I just want to point out, with Elemental Genesis you may actually have issues casting it, but Hell and Lightning Dance are 2 extremely powerful skills as long as you have high AP. So in scenarios like that where a dark stain is causing issues, just go ahead and switch to one of those 2. This weapon's second skill can also help with that very issue. Base attacks can consume a dark stain and deal 200% damage. Sometimes you just need to clear a stain and get some AP back. Might as well deal a crazy amount of damage while doing it. For a base attack, that is. And finally, if you can manage 4 dark stains at once, any skill can consume them to deal 300% attack damage. In longer fights, this turns Lune into a weapon of mass destruction. Try out Hell with 300% damage and let me know how much damage you did. Next up, let's talk about Maelle's weapons, because she actually has a lot of good options. But for the early game, I really like the Brularum weapon. You can acquire one at Flying Waters or the Coastal Cave at level 12. So the weapon has a fire affinity and critical hits apply burn, while the base attack applies 2 stacks of burn. In the late game, you shouldn't really be base attacking at all, but in the early game when you don't have a ton of ways to generate tons of AP every turn, this at least gives you a bonus for base attacking. If you can get this weapon to level 20 before you find something better, it does give you a 100% crit chance while stanceless, usually after a base attack, which would give you roughly the same damage as if you were in offensive stance, you know, with 50% damage bonus versus a 50% crit damage bonus. It all works out. At number 2, the best mid-game upgrade is the Jarum weapon, that you can get from defeating the Chromatic Jar world boss. He actually isn't too hard. I believe I killed him during Act 2, so try around that point. This weapon is all about counterattacks, and gives you some pretty strong abilities when you do so. The first one switches you to V-Stance on counter, which sets up your next turn nicely, and also gives you the V-Stance 200% damage on counterattack. I tested it out, when stanceless and in V-Stance, it does give you the bonus. It also applies 5 stacks of burn, which is just free damage. And at level 20, you get an additional 50% bonus counter damage. So you really don't want to be dodging ever when you have this one out. And I think most people saw this one coming. The number 1 best weapon for Maelle is the Medallum Sword. Now, even though this is the best weapon in the game, you can actually get it super early, but it can be missed if you make a wrong choice. No spoilers, but in the Jestro Village area when you're doing your tournament against the 4 champions, pick Maelle for the last fight and this is your reward. Otherwise, you're going to have to challenge the village chief Golgra to a 1v1 duel and beat her for the weapon. And let me tell you, she's pretty hard. I didn't get it until after I beat the main campaign. But enough about that, let's talk about why it's so good. Well, the very first ability starts us in V-Stance. I usually open up with the State Hall ability on my first turn, so dealing 200% damage on the first turn is great. Plus, you want to be in V-Stance as much as possible with Maelle. The second and third abilities double the amount of burn as well as the amount of burn damage taken while in V-Stance. So pair this with your other party members applying burn and you'll be just fine. Oh, Monoco. For Monoco's weapons, I definitely haven't played him as much as the first 3 in this list, but I have managed to get all but 3 Neveron legs, so I do have some time put in with him. My number 1 early game pick is the Nusaro, which can be attained relatively soon after you recruit him. It's in the old Lumiere area next to Monoco Station where you recruit him. The staff allows you to move the bestial wheel by 1 every time you parry an attack, and resets the wheel entirely when you take damage. So it's a good idea to try to parry until you're on the ability you want to use during your next turn, and then switch to dodges to stay on that wheel. Or intentionally take a damage if you want to reset it, and then parry again up to the point you want. The second ability is an all-arounder, giving you 30% bonus damage when you activate an ability that lines up with the wheel. And if you keep this thing until level 20, you'll earn extra AP and a mass change from parrying. The second staff on this list is later in the game at the Monolith, where the Paintress lies. You can just buy it for 35k chroma. This is a weapon that makes use of free aim shots. Each shot spins the wheel to a random value so you can shoot a couple of times until you get the mask you want. Me personally, I don't really like the caster mask abilities too much, so I could just use a random spin of the wheel when I land on that one. The second ability also makes your free aim shots deal double damage, which pairs really nicely with the sniper picto if you're using this weapon. And lastly, the Almighty Mask is your best mask, and this gives you 100% crit chance, which is great if your build is lacking in that department at this point in the game. The third endgame weapon is my personal favorite of the 3, and it's the Joyaro weapon. This can be acquired as a random drop from the Endless Night Sanctuary, or from the Flying Manor towards the end of the game. This one starts you in the Almighty Mask similar to Maelle's ultimate weapon, starting her in V-Stance. With this, you can always make your opening move super powerful. And the third ability gives you double break damage while in Almighty. The second ability is also super strong for good players. We've seen this ability a few times now, 20% extra damage each turn you don't take damage. Just throw in some shields and you're good to go in any battle. Now, Sciel is definitely my least paid hero of this expedition, but I did talk to my Discord to see what their thoughts were before writing this video script. And I think we have a very strong community pick for top 3 here. The first choice for early game is the Shachion Scythe. You can acquire one early in the Stonewave Cliff areas from the mini-duo boss fight. Now this weapon is for glass cannons, but in the early game, that isn't much of a big deal, as the enemies will deal much less damage than the later game enemies. The first ability has Sun Skills always apply 10 Foretell, allowing you to use the cheapest AP Sun Skills at the start, and leaving more AP for your follow-up moon skills. Also, a really good combo in teamfights is using the Card Weaver skill to put 10 stacks to all enemies that you're fighting. The second skill allows you to burn all 10 stacks of Foretell to apply burn, and give you a free moon charge. Not a bad ability. You want to avoid using base attacks as much as possible, but if you have a low AP turn, this does make the best of a bad situation. And it does synergize with its third skill that doubles all burn damage while in Twilight. The second weapon on this list is the Bordelon, which can be acquired early in the Coastal Cave at level 12. The first ability here gives you free burn damage when you consume Foretell charges. Since you'll be constantly applying Foretell and consuming it anyways, this is just free effect that has all upside. The second skill gives you 100% increased burn damage and once you're in Twilight. If you have Lune on your team, applying burn with this is super strong group synergy. And at level 20, all of your sun skills give one additional sun charge, which is obviously super strong. Now if you don't like that last weapon, or you want another option, the Ghoulson weapon is our second choice for endgame. You can buy this from the merchant at the Endless Night Sanctuary at level 25. The weapon is all about marking and maintaining that mark during Twilight. On Twilight start, you immediately mark all enemies, and hitting them does not remove the mark. So you get to apply mark for free, hit them, and then keep the mark active for your next party member to capitalize on it. The level 20 perk also applies 3 free Foretell stacks when you apply mark. Just a super strong weapon in its own right. And there we have 15 weapons out of the almost 100 in this game that you should check out in Clair Obscur. Let me know what your favorite weapon is down in the comments. I'd love to see what people are finding success with. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.